happy to be here. I'm Aurélie from Agar Ice, and today we're going to talk about hackathons as an open innovation tool for large enterprises. Who here knows what's a hackathon? Amazing. How many of you have already participated in a hackathon? Organized one? Okay, this is going to be quick then. I'm just kidding. All right. So I'm managing director for Agar Ice in North America. Agar Ice has been organizing hackathons, open innovation challenges for the past 7 years. We've done 500 of them. We've heard 5,000 pitches over the past 7 years too. That was very interesting. We work with 200 public and private clients across the globe, and the original thing about us is we are connected and we've been building up a worldwide community of 5 million innovators in 185 countries. So, the word hackathon is the combination of hacking and marathon, nothing new here. Very quickly, it was the one message that I wanted to talk about today is hackathons are not just for coders anymore today. So this image that we usually have, this cliche about hackathons, coders drinking Red Bull and eating pizza during a weekend, has actually very much changed. So we went from Facebook popularizing hackathons through their platform to actually a wider, more democratized approach of open innovation. So hackathons are not just for coders anymore, they're open to all kinds of profiles. Today, we can talk about many other words. We use different terms to actually call hackathons, and I totally agree with John when he said that we need to align our vocabulary around open innovation. There's so many words out there. Innovathons, ideathons, creathons, makeathons, blockathon, crowdstorming. I kind of like crowdstorming, to be very honest. Design sprints. All of them have 3 things in common. However you want to call these competitions, you need 3 key ingredients, right? You need talent, who want to solve a problem, you need a problem to solve, and you need a limited amount of time. I personally don't believe in open innovation in the long run, like competitions that are open with no deadlines, because it's when you put a time pressure on people that they give the best of themselves. What are the benefits of hackathons? So what's in it for me as a participant? Why should I spend my time, which is my most precious asset, right, on trying to solve someone else's problem? Actually, we identified several of them. The 4 main benefits of participating in a hackathon, we figured through different surveys that we've conducted, was I want to get a concrete experience. I want to expand my portfolio of projects I've been working on. I want to expand my network as well. I want to connect with meaningful mentors that could help me advance in my career. I want to have an impact on the future products and services that I might be consuming in the future. And of course, I want to win prizes. But the cash is usually not the #1 reason, as opposed to what people think. We've seen, I don't know if you've heard about this Netflix hackathon in 2009. They were offering $1 million to increase the capabilities of their matching algorithm, their recommendation algorithm on Netflix. And they had to cancel the hackathon because they found a better solution internally. So it's not about the amount of cash you're going to award to people. It's really usually, we've had high performers taking part into hackathons that only offered $2,000 for the winners. So it's not, cash is usually the #4 reason why people join. And the last reason as well, we talk a lot about diversity and giving equal chances. The reason why I joined Agar Ice in the first place is because I wish there was an Agar Ice when I personally entered the job market in 2008, when it was right in the middle of the subprime crisis. It was in Europe. I've just graduated from La Sorbonne in Paris, and it was so hard to find a job. And the standards for recruitment were so high back then in Paris, especially, and it was impossible to be recruited because they were only looking at the name of your university or of your business school you were just coming out from. And the beauty of Agar Ice, it's basically saying everybody starts from the same starting point, and may the best one win, and may the best one win a potential new job at a big company. So being recruited based on merit is something that I find personally very beautiful with hackathons. On the company side, why would a company sponsor or spend time, resources, money on organizing a hackathon? Because organizing hackathons can be very, very costly, right? So the main reasons are brand awareness. Lots of companies are very frustrated because they think, well, actually, rightfully, that most of the people don't really understand their real activities. So many people, for example, still think that Amazon is just an online shopping website, an e-commerce website, while actually 80% of their revenues come from AWS, their cloud service platform. So it's about letting the people know about the whole range of activity of their companies through the hackathon. Also, of course, we're at the crowdsourcing week, so crowdsource innovative solutions and talent to make sure that they stay ahead of the curve, as opposed to their competitors. It's also about driving visibility and engagement among the student community. I say student because hackathons are very appealing to millennials, especially. And millennials are tired of filling in forms on very ugly career websites. Sorry if people here run these kinds of platforms, but it's horrible. And being recruited through a hackathon or through an innovation or through a challenge is so much more appealing and gamified that it appeals a lot to millennials. And a lot of companies also are trying to figure out, how do I engage talent? How do I actually make them like my company and make them ambassadors of my brand? So hackathons are a great way to do that too. And the last thing we've learned is 50% of the challenges that we see and that we have run ourselves are actually very, very talent acquisition focused. So talent acquisition, in 50% of cases, are one of the main reasons why companies want to launch these challenges. They want to see and test the future potential hires that will enter the company, not just test their skills, but also test how they would interact with other contestants, but also how they would interact with their own employees during the hackathon. Because during the hackathons, they're not just participants in one side and the company watching. You have mentors, experts coming into the game and interacting with the teams. And actually, that's a great way for both sides to see how they would fit culturally inside a company. So I'm not gonna, since almost all of you know what's a hackathon and how they are organized, I'm gonna go very quickly on how they work, right? The mechanics of hackathons. This is the typical 48-hour over the weekend hackathon that starts on a Friday and ends on a Sunday. This model is great for many reasons, but it also has a lot of limits. It's great for beginners. First-timers or for hackathons really enjoy these startup weekend kind of experience. It's also great for networking because, once you get thrown into a giant room filled with coders, designers, innovators, creative people, sometimes 500, 1,000 people in the same place is great. And the very fact that it's an event makes it very great for PR, right? Okay, about the flip sides then. The problem with over the weekend hackathons is they are very costly and very heavy in terms of logistics. It takes a whole village to organize a hackathon, believe me. And if you have 1,000 participants, for example, you need to have a lot of people to animate and really supervise the thing. It's time consuming in terms of costs. Just imagine the venue, the food, tables, Wi-Fi, electricity to provide to all of these people. It's a lot. It's very uncertain also in ways that it's open to everybody, and there are very few barriers at the entry, right? At the entrance. So you never really know what's going to come out of these hackathons, and the very fact that anybody's welcome is you have a high churn. So people will show up on a Friday night and they will just not come back on Saturday or on a Sunday because they didn't find the right team members or they didn't find the right projects to work on. So most of the time you lose around 30 to 40% of your participants just overnight. And finally, it's limited. Who are we kidding? We're not going to change the world in 48 hours. It's way too short. And that creates frustration sometimes from both sides, both from the company side who sponsors it because they think, oh wow, I've spent so much energy gathering all these people, and we're kind of disappointed by the types of projects that came out, by the level of maturity of them, and participants also get very frustrated because they feel like they weren't given enough time to work on them. I have one example to share with you. Very big car company, very known. They had spent 200,000 euros, that makes what, $220,000, launching a hackathon in Paris. And okay, for this budget, the problem to solve was how can we create the car of the future? Very simple problem to solve. $220,000 thrown for everything I've just cited, the venue, etc. 47 people showed up. 47. That hurts, right? 47 people showed up, and the winning team, because they had to choose a winner, was an app to verify if your tires were, okay and well, how do you say that? The pressure, yeah, an app to verify the pressure of your tires. That's a lot of money for just one app, right? Just to illustrate the uncertainty of an over-the-weekend hackathon. There is another way. There are many different ways of launching hackathons. You can have some over a week, etc. The model that we chose with Agar Ice, and actually we co-created that model with very famous coding schools and universities across the globe, is coding schools are tired of weekend type of hackathons. And together we co-created a model that would combine quality with quantity and efficiency. So the way we do things is just an example, once again, of how you could do things. It's a 3-stage type of hackathon where first stage is going to be, two first stages are going to be online through a platform where it's basically open to everybody on the planet. You don't need to be available on the right weekend in the very city where it takes place. And during the first 2 or 3 months, you're going to have people teaming up together, ideation online, different votes to finally select, let's say, the 5 best teams. And these 5 best teams only will be invited for an in-person event somewhere. Could be New York, San Francisco, DC, Montreal, or Toronto, or Paris, or wherever. And so that when your executive committee shows up and all of your employees, for example, from your company or your organization come and attend this demo day, you have only pre-selected the best teams that will show up and that will pitch their project during 3 or 5 minutes, for example. Benefits, of course, the logistics is way simpler. It's time efficient for everybody. Usually get better solutions, much better solutions, because you leave enough time for people to prepare and to dig deeper into their projects. It's so much more convenient. I mean, actually, Agar Ice was founded by 3 students who used to take part in so many hackathons. They loved them, but they were spending all of their time and all of their weekends there, and they got pretty tired of it. And that's how the idea of Agar Ice grew, actually. It's accessible and it's inclusive. Imagine you're no longer bound to people just in DC or just in New York or just in San Francisco. You can open up the dialogue to a much more diverse crowd anywhere. Actually, there are 193 countries in the world, and we're so proud today to count innovators in our community from 185 countries. We're so proud, believe me. And the fact that you can pre-select the teams before showing up for the physical event is also a great plus. The flip sides are, in terms of communications, it's much more discreet. So yes, of course, promoting an event that goes and spans over 4 months is way less flashy than a huge event with 1,000 coders for just a weekend. You need to have partners as well. So you need to partner up, and that's very important, especially for the juries, for technology partners, it's very important. The networking aspect is de facto less important. And of course, you need a platform to run that. Okay, let's move on to some stories. The way we can use hackathons is endless. Once again, hackathons are not just for technical problems to be solved. Actually, this one is one of the projects that I'm the most proud of. The City of Toronto has a chief, have you heard of CROs for cities? Chief Resilience Officers. So a Chief Resilience Officer is someone who's appointed by several cities across the globe. Several cities across the globe have CROs. And Chief Resilience Officers, their mission is to prepare the city in case of a disaster. It could be a natural disaster, it could be a terrorist attack, it could be anything. And the CRO of the City of Toronto wanted to find solutions and to better prepare the population of Toronto in case of a disaster. And from that emerged the Disaster Tech Hackathon. It was sponsored by an insurance company and an incubator, local. And one of my favorite projects, two of my favorite projects that came out of this hackathon was, the first one was, did you know that the Canadian government was wasting $2 million in average whenever there's a catastrophe somewhere in the planet because they just send the wrong items to this country, like sending heating covers in Haiti, or stuff like that, these kinds of mistakes. So one of the winning teams had invented an AI-powered triage system that would help select only the most relevant items to be sent in the right locations whenever a disaster occurred. The second winning team had invented, prior to any disaster, an app that would match the skills of all the people who want to get involved. So whenever there's a disaster, you have lots of people who want to help and they want to contribute to help the situation, but it's all the time is very erratic. But it was an app basically that was referencing your skills and matching you with the right tasks. So that was another great example of the kind of things that came out of this hackathon. Second example is actually an open innovation challenge we have finished 3 weeks ago. It was run with the US Department of Education, and it was about reimagining the higher ed ecosystem. There's so many ways today that we learn, many different ways. Just attending the Crowdsourcing Week is a great learning experience for all of us. When I speak to people on one-on-one, I'm learning. Whenever I just read articles, etc. There's so many touch points today for the way we learn. And we do not just learn at university anymore or on Coursera. And the idea of this challenge was, how can we leverage new technologies to actually create and make people just, how can we create lifelong learning? How can we leverage new technologies to create a better, more efficient higher ed ecosystem? These were some of the challenges that were to be solved. We received 164 projects from across the globe. 29 countries were represented, not just the US. And this is to reinvent the higher ed ecosystem in the US, just to show you the international appeal that this challenge had. It was incredible. And one of the projects that won was the Modern Campus. There are lots and lots, and a growing number of students who take courses online because of personal reasons, for whatever reason, they just can't attend courses on campus. So this team's project was basically saying, we have pockets of students that are scattered around the globe. Let's just reunite them. But the thing is, it's great to learn online. It's so convenient, right? But students need at some point to get together and meet each other. And the idea of the Campus of the Future's project was about using cultural sites like museums and gather these students, these online students, for a few weeks so that they could meet each other and they could exchange their learning best practices. So these are the kinds of projects that came out of this challenge. Next way we can use hackathons on a completely different note. So, Pepsi. Today, food and beverage companies spend millions and millions of dollars in market insights, R&D. There's this huge Swiss brand, actually, that's very recently spent 2 years trying to figure out a new brand for cereals. After 2 years of R&D and $2 million spent on trying to figure out one new cereal product, it went on to a focus group, and the focus group didn't like the cereal product. So they just threw the project away, along with 2 years of work and $2 million. And the way they can leverage hackathons is saying, instead of spending months and months trying to figure out what millennials, what our consumers want, why just not tell them, if I gave you the keys of my factories, what kind of new products would you invent? And that's what Pepsi did. So Pepsi basically said, we're trying to figure out what are going to be the next food and beverage movements. The winning projects actually were around coconut. Okay, I'm just going to give you some concrete examples. One of the winning projects was a combination of kefir and coconut water for beverage. We had some around kimchi and kombucha as well, reloaded. Do I still have 2 minutes? Okay, cool. So this was actually very valuable insights for the marketing teams at Pepsi, because this validated and invalidated some of their intuitions that they had, just the 20 people of them. And opening the debate to the crowd actually gave them a lot more confidence in what could be their best-selling products in the future. And last but not least, ways we can use hackathons is for internal purposes. We've had great speakers from incredible organizations this week telling us about how difficult it is to change a company's culture and open up the chakras of their own companies and their own coworkers. Innovation is not just the problem of the innovation team or the R&D team. It should be the problem of everyone at the company. And that's, for example, what Bank of the West did. They launched an entrepreneurship program. And through that entrepreneurship program, they wanted to help emerge what we call corp-ups, corporate startups. These corporate startups that won the challenge had to solve a very simple problem. How can we make our employees' lives easier? How can we make our customers' lives easier? And the 10 teams who won are now being incubated in an incubator in San Francisco. And the idea is to retain your best talent who are driven by entrepreneurship, who have great ideas and great creativity. So instead of just leaving the company and creating their own startups, they will be able to get the best of both worlds. Keep their corporate comfortable job and all the finance and all the money that goes with it and the comfort of it, while being able and having all the tools given to them to create their future corp-ups. So sorry, I don't have enough time, but just to show you the ebook that we've released about the 10-step guide on how to organize a hackathon. It's a very, very easy to read ebook, 10-step methodology if you ever want to launch your own hackathon. Hundreds of tips. We share lots of do's and don'ts. We failed so much in the past, especially during our first years at Agar Ice. Our first hackathons were some of them not, but some of them were disasters, and we've learned so much along the way. And this is what actually all the intelligence we've gathered for the past 7 years that we're sharing with you through that ebook. My name is Aurélie, I'm from Agar Ice, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great.